Okay, hi all, welcome back. This is the 2002 club account, and the next part of it that I'm going to do is not one of the items that's asked for in the "you are required to" section, but it's a bar trading account. So after having done the accumulated fund, we're going to do this bar trading account now because we need to get this a bar profit or bar loss figure from it to use for part B, the income and expenditure account. So it is primarily just a working, but it is an actual account in its own right as well. So the bar trading account looks like any other trading account. It's your sales minus your cost of sales gives you your gross profit, and your cost of sales is going to be made up of opening stock plus any purchases minus closing stock. So when we work out this cost of sales figure, then we're going to subtract it from our sales figure to get our gross profit figure. So first of all, starting with the sales, there's a little bit of work to be done to get the sales figure. And the figures, I suppose, where we get the workings for the sales figures. First of all, we might look at the receipts and payments, and we see bar receipts. It means we took in 104,440 from the bar. That's the money we took in this year. So that would indicate that that's how much sales we did this year, but it's not quite right. So we'll start with that figure, 104,440. Okay. Then if we look back, there were, where are we, bar debtors at the start of the year, 90 euros. So that's people who owed money for drinks that they bought, we'll say last year, and at the start of the year here they still hadn't paid for them. Well, we assume that they did pay for them during this year at some stage, and that it's included in here in the money that we took in this year. However, because it's for stuff that was bought last year or sold by us last year, by the club last year, we don't want to include it in this year's accounts. So we're going to say minus 90. Okay. Then down in the additional information, we have bar debtors and creditors at the end of the year. So that bar debtors figure was for people who owed us money at the start of the year. This bar debtors figure of 140 is for people who owe us money at the end of the year. So it's money that hasn't been paid to the club by the end of the year for, I suppose, drinks and whatnot that was bought in the bar during this year. But because it was for sales that were done in the bar during the year, then it should be included in this year's accounts, this year's bar trading account. So we're going to add on that 140 here, plus 140. And so our total sales that were done in the bar this year is going to be 104,490. Okay, then less cost of sales. Opening stock is just the amount of stock we had at the start of the year, and this is all the start of the year information. Bar stock at the start of the year was 2,100, so our opening stock, 2,100. Then plus purchases. Now there's a little bit of work, very similar to the sales figure, to get the purchases figure. So again, we start with the money spent this year for purchasing stock for the bar, and that's 71,500. But the question we ask ourselves is that all of the purchases were done this year? Were there some purchases that were done that we haven't paid for yet, so that's not included in this 71,500 that we paid out? And is some of this money, was it paid out for purchases that we made the previous year and so shouldn't be included in this year's purchases figure? So again, if we look at the start of the year information here, we've bar creditors at the start of the year. That's creditors are people that we owe money to, or the club owes money to, 1,250 owed by the club at the start of the year. So it must be for purchases that were done last year, but we assume that we paid for those items this year. So we don't want them included though in this year's accounts because it was for purchases that were done last year. And similarly, part 4 and the additional information, we've bar creditors at the end of the year, 1,980. So that's money that we owe for the suppliers, I suppose, for stock that we bought for the bar this year, 1,980. So we bought it this year. The purchases were this year, so we want it included in this year's accounts. But since we haven't paid it yet, it's not included in this figure for money that we paid out. So we want to add it on, and we want to include it in this year, 1,980. Oops, 1,980. Okay, so this minus this plus this gives the total purchase of 72,230. And opening stock plus purchases. We're going to add the two of these together, and that gives us 74,330. Okay, and then we're going to subtract the closing stock figure in the variable. Closing stock is stock at the end of the year, and we get that figure here. Bar stock on the 31st of the 12th, the end of December 01, was 2,300. So we're going to subtract that 2,300. And when I subtract this from that, I'm going to write my figure for cost of sales here right next to that 2,300. So my cost of sales is 72,030. And I'm going to subtract that, so the brackets to show that I'm subtracting it from the sales to give me my gross profit. So when I subtract this from the sales, I get a gross profit of 32,460, and then we're going to transfer in the next video, we're going to transfer that figure into the income and expenditure account.